Welcome to the Gospel Chariot Podcast with Greg Smith. Join me for theological ramblings, thoughts, Bible classes, sermons, and an occasional guest. If you're searching for a confident relationship with God, if you're seeking clarity in your eternal purpose, you have found the right podcast. Let's open God's Word and hear His message. And may the Holy Spirit direct my words and enrich your hearing. I started to count today how many Mother's Day sermons I have preached, but I have no idea what the number would be, so I gave up trying to count how many that would be. So like here at Clarksville Highway, this is 20, right? 20, and I was thinking, how in the world do you preach 20 Mother's Day sermons and not repeat yourself? And then this was the funny part. I was like, I don't even know what I preached on last Mother's Day, so I'm sure none of you remember, right? So it's not like I'm going to repeat myself to you. So, and then I got to thinking, we always talk about like honoring mothers or perfect mothers or what we need to do for our mothers or how great mothers are. And I thought I would just stop and we're just going to do a sermon on a messed up mother. Like one that didn't get everything right. And even in saying that, in saying she didn't get everything right, she probably got more right than she really realized that she got right. So we're going to go through this little circle right here. We're going to go around this circle, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got 7 points. I'm going to try to keep it like in 20, 25 minutes, but it's probably not going to work that way. So when you just get too tired to listen anymore, just stand up and start doing like this, and I'll just like summarize real quick and get out of it. But there's some really good points. No, Charlie, not yet. Yeah, Charlie Moffat's already, yeah, I'm done. Right, he didn't eat breakfast this morning. All right, so a mother who heard from God. So when this is actually Genesis chapter 27. This is the story of Jacob and Esau and Isaac and Rebekah. And so you can read that later. All right, I'm not going to sit and read the whole chapter to you. So we get into the story, and this is where Jacob, stealing is a big word, and he doesn't really steal it, but he deceives his father into giving it to him. But I don't want to be too harsh on him because it was probably supposed to happen that way anyway. Did you realize that? Like sometimes I read the story about Jacob and Esau and Isaac and Rebekah, and I think, man, that one meddling mom, wasn't it? Like this mom. So let me give you the background. All right, so you're like on the same page. Who's supposed to get the blessing? Traditionally, the oldest, Esau. So Esau is Isaac calls Esau in, and Isaac loves wild game, and Esau's a hunter. And he says, listen, son, this is what I want you to do. Greg Smith paraphrase. Go out and kill something, bring it back and fix it for me. Fix it the way I like it, and when you bring it in and give it to me, then I'll give you the blessing. And so Rebekah hears that. Remember, Rebekah hears the words that Isaac says to Esau. And she says, I'm not going to let that happen, right? I kind of like Jacob better. So this is what I'm going to do. She calls Jacob and says, listen, I heard your father, and he's going to try to get the blessing to Esau. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to trick him. He's going to give it to you, and I'm going to cook this food up, and you put all this stuff on your arms. You look like Esau. You smell like Esau. He'll think you're Esau. The only thing that he couldn't get right, do y'all remember the story? His voice. He said, man, you don't sound like Esau. You sound like Jacob. Oh, but feel my hand, Dad. Woo, look how hairy I am. Got to be Esau, right? And you think, man, she jumps in there and she meddles with this, and she is trying to some way work it out so that Jacob will get the blessing because he's the favorite. And we look at that story and we think, man, what a man mom, right? You're missing something. You're missing something that's really important. She has already heard from God. Like when she was pregnant, Do y'all remember this? Like she's pregnant and the boys are just fighting in the womb. It's like two boys usually always do, right? And these are twins and they're fighting in the womb. And she's like, my goodness, why is this happening to me? Any of you ladies ever been pregnant and you think, goodness gracious, why is it going this bad? I mean, what's happening to me, right? And Diane's back there, woo, right. Oh, so you got this going on. And do you remember what God says? There are two nations that are wrestling inside you. And you're going to give birth. And do y'all remember this? A couple of chapters before, the oldest will serve the youngest. So it's not like she's just meddling. She knows there's a promise from God that says Esau is supposed to serve Jacob. And she hears Isaac saying, well, I'm going to give the blessing to Esau. And she says, whoa, hang on, time out a minute. We ain't going to let that happen. Now, there's so much about the story I don't know. Like, did she ever tell Isaac? Like, did he know? Like, did he know? Like, I'm assuming, like, if you're a wife and you get a message from God, I'm assuming you tell the husband. But it never says she told the husband. Did Isaac know the promise? And he says, well, I don't know what the promise is, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. And I'm going to do it this way. And she steps in. I don't know. It's just one of those points in the story that I'm scratching my head thinking, what's happening there? But what I want you to understand is she's not acting because she's necessarily manipulative or that she's spiritually ignorant or she missed something. She's acting because she sees something that maybe everybody else is missing or everybody else is not paying attention to. And boy, is that not moms? I mean, like, have you ever done something and your mom asked you what you did, and you didn't know that anybody knew what you did, but you know the moment that your mom asked you what you did, she knew exactly what you did, even though you thought nobody knew. That's a complicated sentence, right? And you're like, how do moms know that? You ever, like, not be feeling good, and your mom knows you're not feeling good? Or something's going on at school and you really haven't told anybody about what's going on at school, but somehow mom's got like this sixth sense and she knows that something's going on, something's just not right. They just have that ability. Mothers, they often see what other people can't see. And I think in this situation, you have that same type of scenario. And I think spiritually, sometimes moms just have this instinctive spiritual awareness of what's happening. So when you see that with Rebekah, don't just jump to a conclusion and say, boy, she was really meddling a lot in that. No, she had some direction in that. Well, she had the promise right, didn't she? She had the promise right. She knew that Esau is supposed to serve Jacob because God's already told her before that Esau is supposed to serve Jacob. Now, here's where it gets a little dicey. She's got the right promise. She just has the wrong method of achieving it. She just can't wait on God to do what God is going to do. She decides that she really needs to help God along. Now, if you want to get mad at Rebekah, don't get mad at Rebekah too much. Abraham had a promise from God, and what did Abraham think? And Sarah? Well, I know we got this promise from God, but God just ain't doing it the way I think he ought to do it, and he's not doing it as quick as I want him to do it. We're just going to ease this thing up. We're going to speed it up. We're going to do it a different way. Man, kind of runs from generation to generation, doesn't it? Well, don't make too much of the sermon out of that. All right? She understands. She just doesn't trust the process. She doesn't expect that God can accomplish what God said he was going to accomplish without her getting involved. And man, that one really hits close to home, doesn't it? Like, when does concern turn into interference? Like, where does love drift slightly from love over into control? And boy, as a parent, I'm just telling you, those are questions I really don't want to answer. I just want to leave those questions just sitting out there by themselves. Because at the very heart, Rebekah didn't trust God to do what God said he was going to do. She decided she needed to help him. She decided that she needed to make sure that God accomplished what God already said he was going to accomplish. And what happened from that, there is this hidden cost of control for Rebekah. And I don't know if it's there. I just know what the text says, and based on what the text says, I'm going to make a conclusion from that I think it is heartbreaking with Rebekah and Jacob. Do you remember when she told him, look, I want you to go see my family, and I want you to get a wife from there, because, man, Esau is mad. I mean, he's so mad, he's going to kill you, right? So I want you to get out of town for, do you remember how long she said? I want you to go for a few days. Did you catch that? Go for a few days. How long did she think Jacob was going to be gone to find his wife and come back? A few days, maybe a week. Maybe a few days is a month, right? You know what happens in that story? It's just a little bit of conjecture from the text. There is no record that Rebekah ever saw Jacob again. He was there for decades. Wasn't a few days. It's a long time. And sometimes we run into that same problem, don't we? She's fighting to secure something. She's fighting to secure her son. And even in fighting to secure her son, maybe that control caused her to lose him for the rest of her life. And so that pattern doesn't just stop there, does it? It runs from generation to generation to generation. Now, there's a pattern that runs from generation to generation. That is, the oldest will serve the youngest, right? Is that the first time we've seen that in Scripture? No. Ishmael and Isaac, what happens? Oldest serves the youngest. Jacob and Esau, what happens? Oldest serves the youngest. Joseph and his brothers, what happened? Oldest serves the... Y'all see a pattern there, or is it just me? Right? So it runs from generation to generation to generation. Way back with Abraham and Sarah, what were they going to do when the promise didn't look like it was right? We talked about this a couple of minutes ago. What are they going to do? They're going to fix it. They're going to do it right. Oh, we're going to help God out. Every generation where they try to help God out, there is this pattern that fractures and fractures and fractures all the way to the point that it fractured so much that this is later in Genesis, and we'll get there. But what did Joseph's brothers do to him because of the situation? They sold him. They got rid of him. And so there's kind of a deeper issue beneath this favoritism. See, favoritism's not really the root, I don't think. And it's not really about favoritism or deception. Again, it's about trust. It's about trust. Did she trust God to accomplish what God was going to accomplish? You know, God's sovereignty is never meant to be replaced by a mother's love. And that's just a tough statement. And it's a hard one. Do you remember when you're reading the story, and I think this is so critical in the story, and sometimes we read right over it. it says, when we're getting down to the deception, the chapter we're looking at, that Jacob called to, when he was going to talk to Esau, do you remember what it called Esau? His son. Jacob was said to his son in the text. And when Rebekah's talking to Jacob, do you know what it says? And she said to her son. What did a couple of chapters before tell us? Esau, he's a man of the field, right? He's ruddy. He's kind of red looking and he's hairy. He's a man's man, right? He goes out and he hunts and kills. He drags it in and slays it and cooks it up for pop. And it's just the food that he loves. And Isaac has this taste for wild game. So what does it say about Isaac and Esau? Oh, Isaac loved Esau. Jacob, he's kind of fair-skinned. He kind of dwells in the tents. He kind of stays home. Esau's out in the field. Jacob's home in the tent. He's a shepherd. What does it say about Jacob and Rebekah? Oh, Rebekah loved Jacob. Boy, now, when you get to be a parent, does that make you pause? I mean, just as a parent, does it ever just kind of make you pause and think, okay, how am I treating my kids? Isaac doesn't trust what God revealed. Rebekah doesn't trust God to accomplish what he revealed. Both tried to shape the outcome. Mom's influence pretty powerful? I mean, let's be honest, is a mom's influence powerful? Yes. Yeah, if y'all don't know how to answer that, y'all come see me after church and I'll give you a full rundown. The answer to that is yes. Is it meant to replace God's sovereignty? No. See, a mom's ability to see clearly is a gift, but trying to determine the outcome might not be. And you're saying, Greg, where are you going with all of this? Abraham and Sarah get messed up? Yeah. Isaac and Rebekah with Jacob and Esau to get messed up? Yeah. Did God's promise depend on perfect people? No. No, God continues to be faithful to his promise in the midst of a bunch of broken, messed up, make the wrong decision kind of people. God's plan still moving forward. If you see Rebekah there as being manipulative, God's still moving forward. If you see like a home that's divided, one parent lives, and then they can't kind of all get on the same page as a family, God is moving forward. If you see a bunch of flawed decisions in that family, God's plan is still moving forward. The line of promise, because of God's promise, never gets derailed. So there's a lot of hope in that. So if you're sitting there this morning, you're thinking, man, that story's pretty interesting, Greg, but my family don't quite look like one of them Bible families. Well, you probably look more like the Bible family than you think you look like. And even if you think you're not like one of those Bible families, guess what? God used broken, messed up, bad decision-making people to accomplish his purpose. He's always done it, and he always will do it. So here's your hope if you're a mom. Okay, here's your hope. God is not depending on you to have perfect planning, right? You don't have to be a perfect parent. God's promises aren't that fragile. So you might be sitting down and you think, hey, I'm a mom that got everything right. Good for you. You might be out there thinking, well, I'm a mom. Maybe I got half right. Good for you. Good for you. I'd like to know that even half of my decisions in life were right, wouldn't you? Like I'm like way down the maybe you're looking at decisions and you're carrying some regret or some distance, and you're thinking, man, I really messed that one up. God is always faithful to his promise, even in the midst of messed up families. So what happens with that is you have to release something. Maybe you feel like you're carrying something. Well, this is kind of the spot in sermons you get to and you think, man, you don't really want to talk about this because it hits like way too close to home. It's better when you can talk in generalities in sermons. You don't have to talk about like real stuff because real stuff gets you really messed up sometimes. And I had this written for mothers, but maybe for today it's better than just not to say mothers and fathers. How many of you think your decision is carrying your child's future? Like you're afraid of a decision you haven't made yet, and you're afraid it's going to determine where that child is going to go. You've made a decision in the past, and you wonder how that shaped your child. Or there's a situation right now that feels like really urgent, and you're trying to decide how to respond to that. What I want you to know is you respond to that in a very active, positive way. And you do that in a way that you trust God to maintain His promise. I'm afraid sometimes as parents, and I don't mean moms and I don't just mean dads, I just mean parents. I think sometimes we get ourselves in positions and we think that we're carrying what only God can carry. Like we think it's our decision that's going to determine every future moment, or what we say that's going to determine every future moment, and our impact and our wisdom. I mean, it needs to be there, but we can't carry what only God can carry. You know, and if I were going to look back, and as a parent and as a son, I mean sometimes. Kind of maybe direct this to this role, right? Sometimes your parents tell you something you don't want to hear, but it is the thing that you need to hear, right? Like as parents, we're not supposed to tell you all the things that you want to hear, so we'll always be your buddies. We're the people who are supposed to tell you what you need to hear to help guide you down a spiritual path. And sometimes we have to look at you and shake our heads and say, what in the world are you thinking, right? Now, I don't want to speak for my parents, and I'm sure that they never had any moments like that with me, because I am sure I was absolutely the perfect son, and they never questioned anything. Charlie's like, you might as well sit down and shut up now. Now, I'm sure a lot of times my parents were shaking their heads thinking, what in the world is that kid doing, right? Were there times that my parents said, hey, I mean, was there discipline in that and advice in that and times in that where, we were just at opposite ends of stuff and we just had to sit down and have a meet? Yeah, there were moments like that. It's part of being a parent. In the midst of all of that is not part of our parent putting our arm around you and saying, but you're still going to be my child. Still love you. Patting you on the back when you do well. Saying, hey, job well done. Proud of you for what you've done. I mean, how many moms and dads both probably need to stop a little more often and instead of being critical, tell our kids how proud we are of them instead of all the things that they're doing wrong. Just release what you are carrying if it's God's to carry and not yours. So you go all the way around that circle, and there's this thread, and I want you to see it carefully. Genesis is full of people trying to secure God's blessing. Then there comes a son who he received the blessing without deception because he was the one who was sent by God in the flesh. A son who didn't need to manipulate. He didn't take what was not his. He stands in our place. And we receive from him what we could never earn. Instead of keeping all of God's blessing, this son chooses to share his blessing with those he will call brothers and sisters. Because all through that story, God's plan was never at risk. God accomplished exactly what he set out to accomplish when Jesus died on the cross for the sins of the people. And it's always moving toward him, and it will always move toward him. So I am thankful this morning that there is a son in which we put our faith and our trust, and we know that the blessings that he has promised for us, even though we may not quite be able to see how it's going to work out. We know that they are His blessings, and He is faithful, and He is true, and He is just, and He never lies, so His promises are always sure. So no matter how messed up your life is, no matter how many things are going on, perfect or not perfect, I just ask you, are you trusting in the Son that God sent into the world for you? If you need prayers, need to respond in some way, we're going to ask you to do that while we stand and sing.